Lucifer's Wolf by StoryMan-Jack, with a special thanks to Culture Casino for helping me with the thumbnail. Mitchell's eyes opened slowly to the dust and darkness. They'd thrown him out of the damn saloon again. He'd either run out of money or just been too drunk again. Probably the latter. A man stood over him, dressed in a sharp business suit and bowler hat. The man actually carried a cane in his right hand as if it were some sort of scepter. "My dear boy," the man said in a crisp English accent, "whatever are you doing in the middle of this crossroads?" Mitchell grunted, "Looking for something." The man just nodded with a smirk. "Well, I do believe you have found someone." He paused and looked toward the saloon. "Let us retire to that ramshackle pub over there." He looked around. "The dust alone would require a libation, surely." Mitchell tried to stand but stumbled before coming up, just to his knees. "Threw me out," he said, shaking his head. The Englishman held out his hand. "I do not believe that will be an issue," he said with what seemed to Mitchell to be a wolfish kind of smirk. "I will just need to require a conversation." Mitchell took the man's hand and pulled himself up. It was like pulling on a rock, some sort of stone jutting out from the earth. Entering the saloon was like entering another world. The once shabby little hole, its marginally repaired tables and chairs, were replaced with masterwork furniture. The crowd of rowdy farmers and townsfolk were gone, and the whores had disappeared altogether. Only a solitary bartender stood behind the bar, his face filled with fear. The Englishman led Mitchell to a table in the back next to the stairs up to the rooms where normally women plied their trade. "What's your name, fellow?" Mitchell asked. The Englishman leaned back in his upholstered chair, hands resting in front of him upon the pommel of his walking stick. "Names are so important to you creatures," he said. "Tell you what, you may call me Lou." His tone was ironic. "Okay, Lou," Mitch asked. "Why?" "Oh, Mitchell, there we are. You know exactly why. You sought us out, you know." Mitchell was suddenly and unequivocally sober for the first time in several years. "You wish to avenge your beloved wife and young son?" "Yes," we asked. "Is it not why you bawled at your God and denounced him like a feeble child?" The former rancher nodded his head. "So, I'm still passed out in the street. This is some sort of vision? Dream?" Lou shook his head. "You are under a few misconceptions." "Which are?" Mitchell asked. "Mitch." The smile was gory, and for the first time Mitchell understood that he wasn't doing something human. "You were told that if you cried like a bear, you who is religious and..." Lou sneered. "Christian." He said the last word in a tone of complete malice. "Wishing to sell your soul. Then you get an answer. Is that not correct?" Mitch nodded. "Crossroads demons, she called them," he said. "The old lady said they would give me the power I needed to take from the men what they took from me, blood for blood." Lou was silent for a long time, and then added, "Your next misconception is that there are," he chuckled, "something called crossroads demons." This confused Mitch. "What do you mean? You answered, didn't you?" "You do have a point, however. There are just demons and angels. Certainly there are their hierarchies. But you mortals have no idea. Nor should you. Well, why then? And it comes to it, does it not? The demon calling itself Lucifer. You see, I have certain vested interest in making sure those responsible for what happened to your family are indeed destroyed. Certain rules were broken, and this must not be. Even chaos must be under certain restrictions. Mitch was not an educated man, but he was no fool. Why? Why would you care about my family? That does not matter just yet. What does matter are the specifics of what you would like from me and what you will offer for payment in such. What do I have left for my soul? Mitch whispered. Lou nodded, rubbing the light goatee, thinking. Once a bright and shining thing, yes, yet tarnished over the last decade. And what do you ask in particular for this subpar product? The power and ability to kill everyone and everything responsible for taking my family, Mitch said. His eyes grew hard and he met the demon's gaze. Take it or leave it. You said you wanted them destroyed too, right? Lou nodded. This is true. Then the deal. I will give you power, and your soul will belong to me once all who are responsible are dealt with by you. What now? Mitch asked. The demon shrugged. You will go upstairs, where you will find a bed with a beautiful hall waiting upon you. It is almost dawn, and I will return after sunset with the necessary accoutrements, and you will know your power. Is this acceptable? Do we have an accord? Mitch nodded. The demon held out his hand reluctantly, and though he'd been searching for one such as this for over 10 years, he did hesitate before clasping the demon's offered hand. Once he did so, fire washed through Mitchell, his back arching in the chair, starting in his tightly gripped hand and spreading like wildfire through his body. Just as the pain became too much and Mitch felt consciousness about to lose itself from reality, the pain disappeared, and when he looked up, Blue was gone. It took him what seemed like all day to get up to the room the demon had granted him. In this illusory saloon, it took far less time to kick the woman out. It had no need for such a thing, and his exhaustion was more than he'd ever known. And then Mitch slept, a dreamless, unconscious thing, so deep that he doubted he'd ever even have woken for anything less than a gunshot to his nether regions. By necessity, this must needs be short. The English voice woke him from his deep darkness. Mitchell felt better than he'd felt before. It was like fire was in his very blood. Yes, hellfire to be precise, the demon said with a wave of his hand as if it were nothing. I must be short, Lou told him, his British accent crisp and proper. Where are my clothes? Mitch asked. I'm afraid, Lou went on, the patrons and staff may get the wrong idea since you tossed the whore I paid for out, and I've been your only visitor since. Mitch's face grew up in mock worry. Especially since you are English. The demon's eyes went wide, and his tone was spiteful when he spoke. That is demeaning. To homosexuals or to the English? You're a demon, for fuck's sake, Mitch snorted. Where are my fucking clothes? He paused, thinking, startled, even. The last time he'd used that word, his pod beat him within an inch of his life. He'd been about 6. And now it came out so casually, twice. In the wardrobe, Lou said with a chuckle. Mitch wasn't sure if it was the use of the profanity or the snide comment about the demon himself that made him chuckle. The shirt, pants, duster, boots, and hat were all of a black leather, kind of leather Mitch had never seen before. Hanging on the door were 2 Colt revolvers, black in color, and a short rifle, also black. The leathers fitted perfectly and were more comfortable than leather had any right to be. Hey, this feels strange, Mitch growled. What's it made of? Remember when I told you that I had a vested interest in these men? Well, it turns out a demon was indeed responsible. That armor is made of his lieutenant's skin. The demon's tone was apathetic. You will find the 5 men who did the deed 6 miles north of this town. I expect you will have your justice, your vengeance, if you will. We will settle up our business once this is accomplished. Now go. Without even acknowledging the man, Mitch went for the door, strapping on his gun belts and a small rifle strapped across his back. He'd miss his white hat. It was the one his wife had scrimped and saved to get him. But he damn sure missed her more. He paused, thinking, but decided he'd have to question the demon about his lieutenant and stuff later. The demon stood. Your horse has been, Lou looked up as if trying to find the right word, though Mitch knew it was an act. Adjusted to help to be acceptable and useful for your tasks. So long as it gets me where I'm going, he said, leaving the demon in the room. Once Mitch left town, the illusion faded and the demon found himself scowling at the misrepair, the faded and cracked wood, the hideous smell, the combination of stale semen, vomit, piss, and beer. Lou didn't even look up as another man, this one dressed in a white business suit instead of a black, though he looked like a mirror image of the demon himself. You just done that? The newcomer asked. Ah, brother, Lou said. It is about time. You gave up the right to call me that, Lucifer, when you rebelled, remember? Lou shrugged. Michael, must you always be so proper? So much towing at that party line. This is your mess. If your lieutenants break their codes again, the endgame will come before either of us are ready. And that is not the chaos you want, is it? Michael asked, his arms folded. I've taken care of it, the demon growled. Our new wolf will hunt all those in the faction down and dispense with them. Why did you not tell the man of his wife? That she was consorting with the demon that betrayed her? The angel asked. Lou just stared at his former brother. Why must you insist on being so stupid? You know as well as I that he wouldn't have chosen to believe me. The truth is not a small thing, the angel said. And if he believed you or not, that is irrelevant. You wanted a bounty hunter for the demon factions that wish to precipitate our long-awaited war. Lou pointed out. This is him. He will restore that balance. Until he realizes you did not constrain him, the angel argued. Lou shrugged. He will be more efficient this way. Do you not always prattle on about free will? Father did, Michael said quietly. He could have told me himself, Lucifer snarled, so he can go fuck himself. Michael shook his head sadly. My former brother, he has been trying to speak to you since you left. You cannot hear him, and that is not his duty. Lou disappeared with a snarl in the air. Mitch had dismounted the black stallion with cold red eyes and made his way slowly to where he felt those men camping just against a short bluff. He caught sight of the first man, grizzled, and looked as if he had not eaten in several days, propped up on a log, dozing. Flash images filled Mitch's mind. "How long will you be gone?" Susanna asked. "Just a few days," Mitch told his wife as he pulled her close. "We need meat, and the cattle are just too damn valuable right now for us to take. Even a small steer. With the end of war coming, food is scarce, and they'll be driving up the price, not to mention the refugees coming through." "Good," the woman said. "Hope you get what we need quickly, though, in return. I hate being here alone." "It is possible. With so many fleeing the war," he shook his head. "And that reminds me. I asked Hal over the way to check in on you." The small boy crawled out of the front door to sit on the porch watching him. He reached down and picked him up. The boy squirmed in his arms as he always did, as if trying to get away. "You be nice to your father," the woman scolded the toddler. Mitch smiled, trying to hold the struggling child. "It's the scars," he told her gently. "They scare him, I think." He gave the boy to his wife and mounted on his horse. "Be safe," she told him. "All right, you do the same. And keep the shotguns loaded and don't answer the door for no one you don't know." Mitchell crawled up behind the dozing sentry and slit his throat with the black-bladed knife he'd found in his boot, one he didn't remember even strapping on. The next sentry wasn't just dozing, he was fast asleep. Mitchell picked up the largest rock he could find and bashed the man's head in as brutally and efficiently as possible. He wanted him to feel it, feel every pound, every bash with torment ripping through him. Wanted him to know the pain that Mitch himself knew. Flash, more images came blurring in his mind. 2 deer. And in one day, a large doe, massive 18-point monster he had not thought possible. The sun was rising as he caught sight of the house and heard a sound that chilled his heart. "It was the cow bawling," he said to himself. "When a cow isn't milked, the pressure builds. And it's quite painful for the animal. It should have been done every morning." The door hung at an odd angle, only the top hinge holding it on its frame. Mitchell kept bashing the man long after his head had been turned into a running puddle of mush. It was a gunfire that brought him out of his rage, but not fully. He stood and walked through the gunfire of the remaining men, and none of it touched him. "I am the wolf, a hound. I'm coming for the rapists and murderers of my family." He paused, bullets striking the strange leather of his duster and falling away as if the lead were molten upon impact. His voice turned supernatural and unworldly. "And I'm bringing hell with me." Flash, these last images, the ones that ate at him, tore his guts, turned his heart to ice and prompted him to seek out the hellfire to thaw that cold rage. He'd failed his family. It was his fault. She'd been stripped, naked, and tied, bent over a large dining table. Her eyelids had been removed. Little pieces of skin of what was left hanging from her upper eyes. She'd been abused in the most brutal and bloody way possible. Across from her, their son. God, their son. Not even old enough to walk. strapped to his makeshift cross, his throat cut, the little pale face hanging limp to the side. Had he been forced to watch the rape of his mother? Or had she been forced to be raped while watching their son die? The irons glowed red as he whipped them out of their leather holsters. His rage could not be contained nor satisfied. He knew it. He'd kill them, take them down and send them to hell, and he's willing to burn right next to them just to watch it happen. Content in justice. Boom! It was louder than a .45 Colt had any right to be. The man was struck in the forehead, but instead of a hole, a crater appeared in his head. Fire began eating the flesh from his body, the screams of the man's soul obvious in the air. Mitch smiled and shot again. Boom! The next one took the hellfire round in his chest. Again, greasy smoke spread across the man's body, his screams adding to the delight of the first man's. No, I surrender, the last man yelled before tossing his rifle to the ground. Who are you? He pleaded. I'm the wolf. I'm hell. And I'm here to take your soul where it belongs for what you did to that woman and her child. The witch? The man stammered. Mitch roared and went for the man's head. Fury, fire, and blood followed. He ripped the man's head from his shoulders and stood a long time, confused as to how the man was even dead so quickly, so utterly. Capital! The English accent came from behind him. Mitch spun, his rifle settling his hands, relaxed only slightly when he saw Liv. Once his mind came back to him, once he was himself, he lowered his weapon and stood looking at the carnage around him, stunned. Fires burned the flesh that had once been men, their blood, limbs, and guts, strewn from one end of the camp to the other. I have to admit, you righteous men do the most damage, and in such a spectacular way. What do you mean? He asked. Do you not remember my statements about misconceptions, my wolf? Yes, these men did what they did to your lovely wife and that child. But why? Why would anyone do such a thing? Men are brutal. They take what they want if they can. Find no other way to get something. They don't care, not in the end, Mitch told the demon. Absolutely, mortals are brutal. Yes, what a delight. Yet why? Why crucify the boy? The demon chuckled. Rage filled Mitch. Are you laughing? He raised the weapon again. The demon folded his arms and sighed. You are not done. Those responsible have not all been punished. What? Mitch demanded, ordering them. Were there 6? No, you see, that thing was no child. It was corrupted in the womb, its soul rejected and sent back to the well of souls, away into the darkness from whence it was got, because your wise master demanded it of her. He wished to spawn a demon child. Mitch took a step forward. Just what exactly are you saying? He demanded. Your wife was a servant of a demon. Since early childhood, you see, my wolf, you explained. Liar! Mitch screamed. You all lie! The demon laughed, a deep belly laugh. Lie? Why lie? I have your soul already. To manipulate me. I already have what I want, my wolf. A hunter. The wolf, if you say. I do not lie about this. I have no reason to. And see, that's the other and most important misconception you have. Lucifer does not lie. It is not needful. He smiled. Lou just stood there. Look, Lucifer. He's not lying, another voice said from behind Mitch, who spun, rounding, his gun raised to the ready again. The man also wore a suit, much like the demon's, but this one was pure white. Your wife has been a most devout disciple of Asmodeus, a spirit of lust. Who the fuck? Mitch started. Michael, an angel of the Lord, your God, the Englishman said with conviction. Mitch let out a grunt, his shoulders slumping. Not my God, not anymore, not since he let them take her. And nevertheless, this is who I am, the angel said. Mitch turned back to Lou. Why then, if your side already had her, why? There is a cold war going on in both heaven and hell. Michael informed him. The demon sat on a chair, and it was just in the blink of an eye. Where he found it was anyone's guess. Asmodeus leads a faction in hell that would like to expedite Armageddon. There is another such faction in heaven, and we, Michael and I, and Father, are the status quo, and we would like to keep it that way. Your armor, as I said, is made of demon hide, one of Asmodeus' lieutenants. Heaven and hell are working together, Mitch demanded. Don't make me lie. Our deal is not complete until the last of those responsible are dead, sent to oblivion and punished by you specifically. That includes taking Asmodeus, Michael. The smile was oily. Where? Mitch demanded. Where's this date? You may begin your search in Dodge City, the angel told Mitch. And Mitch wasted no time. He hunted down the horse, who had not moved since he'd left it earlier, and was on his way quickly. That was impressive, he said. Now you have the hunter, the demon told him. One to enforce the rules. Do with him as you will. I'll be watching, my brother. The last line was delivered in slime and vitriol, then vanished. And the righteous man shall bring vengeance of hell upon him. Michael quoted from something no human had ever read. The end. I hope you've enjoyed this story. This one was a whole lot of fun to write. I really enjoyed the fact that Culture thought enough of it to create a thumbnail for me. So I appreciate that. Please, if you never left a comment before, never gave your opinion, please tell me what you liked and disliked about this story. I really would like to expand upon this and maybe make it a little serial series. I think it can be that good. And as my son says, maybe I did rip off Ghost Rider, but I never really paid attention to that comic or movie or whatever. I mean, I wasn't into that. So, again, if you're new, please like, share, and subscribe, and help me bring more original fiction to you. Have a good evening, a good day, a good night. And remember, your life is your story. Make it a great one.